All right, we're back on the record on case number 23-17423-DM. Ms. Lentz, your next witness, please.
Your Honor, I'll call Jennifer Kloosterman, the plaintiff.
All right. 1 second. All right, ma'am, if you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Ms. Lentz.
Ms. Kloosterman, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Sure. Jennifer Kloosterman, Kloosterman.
Are you currently married?
I am.
Who are you currently married to?
Kevin Kloosterman,
How long have you and the defendant been married?
17 years.
And do you and the defendant share any children together?
Yes, we do.
How many children do you and the defendant share?
3.
And what are the names and ages of the children you and the defendant share?
Kelvin 15, Callie 13, and Kelsey 10.
Ms. Kloosterman, are you and the defendant currently residing together?
No, we are not.
And when did you and the defendant physically separate?
April 14, 2023.
After that separation, did you stay in the marital residence?
Yes, I did.
Where did the defendant go?
He went to his parents' house.
Ms. Kloosterman, paragraph 4 of defendant's objection to the temporary order for custody, support, and parenting time claims that you kicked defendant out of the house. Is that true?
That is not true.
Ms. Kloosterman, on May 2nd, 2023 at 8:11 p.m., did the defendant text you, "I will also not be moving home. We are not there yet"?
He did.
Ms. Kloosterman, in the days and weeks after the defendant left the marital residence, how would you describe the environment in the marital residence?
It was calm, loving, obviously different because he wasn't there. But it was calm and peaceful, and we weren't walking on eggshells.
And Ms. Kloosterman, after defendant left the marital residence, was there a parenting time schedule that you and him set up?
Yeah, we just we had talked about it, and we just said, since I was at the house, and I was teaching and the kids were in school, and I took care of the kids. I did the kid stuff during the week. We just very easily slid into every other weekend. It was very fluid because he worked a lot, and that was amping up towards his busy season with working. And so I would never, withhold the kids. It was just very much, this is your weekend. You get first choice on what you want to do with the kids or do things with them. And then the next weekend, I would be okay, now I'm going to do something with them, especially when it involved, if he was going to his family or we were to travel to my family, that sort of thing.
And Ms. Kloosterman, when did you file your complaint for divorce?
May 17, 2023.
After the defendant retained an attorney, did his position about leaving the marital residence change?
Absolutely. He all of a sudden told me that he wanted to move back in, that I kicked him out, which I didn't kick him out. I had asked him, to leave, but I never prevented him from coming back. And all of a sudden it was very rigid. He had an agenda of wanting to see the kids, not very flexible with the fluidity of taking the kids places and doing things with them.
And Ms. Kloosterman, at some point in time, did the defendant return to the marital residence?
Yes, he did.
When was that?
June 13.
And Ms. Kloosterman, when was the temporary order for custody, parenting time, and support entered in your case?
I believe it was June 15.
And in the days and weeks that followed the defendant's return to the marital residence, how was the environment at the home?
It was edgy at best, back to eggshells, very we were all just on edge. It seemed fake. It seemed like this holding pattern of nobody really knew what was going on. It wasn't conducive to relaxation of living by any means. It was kind of back to the walking on eggshells and trying our best to, still cohabitate, knowing where we were headed.
And Ms. Klusterman, in the days and weeks that followed the defendant's return to the marital residence, how would you describe his behavior towards you?
He had really amped up when I had talked to him about the fact that I had found out that there was an inappropriate relationship going on. I was hurt.
Objection. This is not relevant to the children.
I don't even know what it is.
Your Honor, I'm asking how the defendant treated my client, which is directly relevant to how these parties co-parent and factor J. If my client can explain how the defendant treated her and why she believes that, I think it is relevant.
Well, you can follow up. Like I said, I don't even know if this means an inappropriate relationship with the kids. How would I know that based on the question asked? I don't have any context for this. So you can follow up and we can see where the objections go. I'm not ruling out that you can't object. I just don't have any. You all know your case. You're presenting it to someone who doesn't know the case other than what's been filed. That's all I can tell you, which I have read through this file.
Okay, so I'm going to re-ask the question. Ms. Klusterman, in the days and weeks that followed the defendant's return to the marital residence, how would you describe his behavior towards you?
Very, very pushy, very aggressive, especially in front of the children. He wanted to continue a marital relationship physically. And I was not at that point in our relationship because of what I had learned had happened. And I wanted to just kind of at this point, I was hoping that we could maybe get through this together and figure out why and how, where the breakdown is and why this is happening. I wanted nothing to do physically with him at this point. And in front of the children, many times he would try kissing me, touching me, grabbing me. And I had told him many times, this is the last thing I want right now in our relationship. We need to get other things squared away first if this is going to be returned to a marriage relationship.
And Ms. Klusterman, on June 29th, 2023, did you file a petition for an ex parte personal protection order?
I did.
Can you explain why you filed a petition for an ex parte personal protection order?
Yes, because when he was back in the house for those 2 weeks' time, it was continual pressure for sexual acts.
Objection. We're getting beyond the scope of relevancy. We need to link this to the children only. What two parents or two parties in a 17-year marriage do in their private life is not relevant to how they are as parents.
Your Honor, if I may respond to that.
Yeah.
Factor K specifically addresses domestic violence, whether in the presence or not. MCL 400 1.501 defines domestic violence in part as to cause a family or household member to engage in involuntary sexual activity by force, threat of force, or duress. And I think this falls squarely within the definition of domestic violence contemplated by Factor K.
I agree.
So, Ms. Klusterman, I'm going to ask you to again answer the question. Can you explain why you filed a petition for an ex parte personal protection order?
Absolutely. I was not feeling safe. The way I would act showed that, and the kids were very in tune with that. I was trying to protect them. And
speculation as to what the children were attuned to.
Response.
Here's our, I didn't know if you were talking or if I was talking.
Well, no, sometimes I'm thinking because I don't always need a response, and sometimes I wanted to allow you to respond. I mean,
Your Honor, I believe the children.
The issue is some of the testimony was that some of these acts occurred in front of the kid. So if Ms. Meltzer is asking you to clarify, that's what it is. It's not necessarily a general, we haven't talked about this. It was said not even 5 minutes ago on the record. So there's context, but if she needs you to clarify it and can't or won't do that on cross, you can do that now.
All right, Ms. Kloosterman, some of these instances of, I'll call it sexual pressure, occurred in front of the children, correct?
Absolutely.
Do you believe the children, when they would see those instances, would become, I guess for lack of a better term, would they respond in a way? Could you tell that they acknowledged it?
Yes, I think they were confused because at this point they thought we were, we're married, and we tried to hide most of this from them, but Kevin knows that I do not like to create conflict in front of our children. And so a lot of these advances would happen in front of our kids because he knew then that I would not object or stand strong or verbally, I said verbally stop, but I would not get into an altercation with him in front of our children whenever possible.
And Ms. Kloosterman, was your request for a personal protection order granted?
Yes, it was
When was that granted?
June 30th of 2023.
And as a result of that personal protection order, did the defendant leave the marital residence again?
Yes, he did.
And have you and the defendant remained separated physically since June 30th, 2023?
Yes, we have.
And Ms. Kloosterman, what is the current parenting time schedule under the terms of the June 15th, 2023 order?
It is every other week with an exchange at 6 o'clock on Sunday, and then 3 hours of parenting time on Wednesday. Should we not agree on a different day?
And Ms. Kloosterman, where are you currently employed?
Traverse City Christian,
What position do you hold at Traverse City Christian?
math teacher,
How long have you been employed with Traverse City Christian?
this summer, 2023.
And prior to working at Traverse City Christian, where did you work?
Old Mission Peninsula School.
Did you voluntarily leave your employment with Old Mission, or were you terminated?
I voluntarily left.
Ms. Kloosterman, why did you voluntarily leave?
I needed a clean environment, fresh environment, because the altercation, inappropriate relationship was with my boss and friend.
Objection, outside the scope of relevancy is to the children.
Yeah.
And also lack of foundation. She has not laid any foundation to say that that actually occurred.
May I respond?
Maybe, so I may not be understanding. Are there two inappropriate issues here? So here's part of what I'm trying to figure out. I am aware that the attorneys on behalf of their clients filed a stipulation with regard to child support. This directly relates to child support. So I don't know if that's, whether she voluntarily left an employer directly relates to child support. So so let me ask this. Is this issue you're talking about, leaving that school, already a part of your stip? You see what I'm saying? So if you've essentially stipulated those facts, I would agree it's irrelevant. You both signed it, you both filed it on October 5th. So
the only reason I was offering, Your Honor, is in terms of like factor B and C. I don't want my client to be deemed like flighty for leaving a job voluntarily. I just don't want it to be interpreted that she has an inconsistent work history. So I was offering a reason for why she left. And again, it would just be to show that, like for factor B and C, that she does have consistent employment and the ability to provide. If that's not an issue, then I'm fine.
Yeah, we'll stipulate that there's no concern regarding her employment. She's still a teacher, she's still working. To me, there's no issue there.
okay, like I said, sometimes people will bring up, well, you left this job, and I understand that's what. So if we're
We've
stipulating
never
that,
brought that up, and we will stipulate that that's not an issue in this case.
thank you.
And I understand that child support is resolved. I do want to ask about health insurance, though, in the course of her current employment, as that's not addressed in the stipulation. So I just don't Are you guys frozen? Okay.
No, we're not frozen.
Okay.
I don't think.
My expression is of one of baffle, because I don't see how this relates to the established custodial environment and the best interest factors. She provides health insurance. That's a child support issue that can be dealt with at, I mean, there's no contesting that. I mean, my client's self-employed. She's always provided the health insurance for the children. I believe that was always part of the temporary order and would be part of the permanent order, that she get a credit for that. I don't know why we're talking.
I think that the court needs to know how much my client pays for health insurance on the child in order to use the incomes and the stipulation to calculate child support at the end of this.
That's usually referred to the front of the
That's
court. They
unreasonable.
send out a questionnaire, they submit that, then they make a recommendation, and we move on with our lives. I thought today was about established custodial environment and best interest factors, and we're getting into something about a boss.
That part, what she's,
resolved that part.
she's not going into that part. That part's resolved, but the health insurance, I mean, you tell me, what did you agree to? I mean, the only reason, I'll just state this as a general rule for this jurisdiction, the only reason why the referees have to refer these matters to the front of the court is because, generally speaking, nobody provides any information about child support during these hearings. So I was grateful, how's that, and surprised to see that these parties have actually provided information on child support, because I can assure you it's rare. Now, if you're wanting me to calculate, I can pull up the stip, or you can just tell me. I don't believe it says that we stipulate that you just refer this to the front of the court. If that's what you want me to do, I can do that. I thought it was just income.
No, it's just, my understanding of the stip was that
Income.
agree
All
that
this
these
is
are
income.
their
It doesn't
income.
say anything about. There are 5 paragraphs. It says nothing about insurance. So I assume that's something I have to figure out.
exactly.
Ms. Spelter, do you know whether that stip has anything to do with insurance?
It's related to income, but there's no contest regarding that she provides health insurance, and that the premium related to the children would be part of the child support calculation. So if she just wants to give that number right now, that's fine. But there's a lot more that was attempting to be discussed that isn't relevant.
But
And
we've
we
already
resolved
ruled. She already said she wasn't going to state any more about that. Ms. Lentz.
All right, Ms. Klusterman, do you provide health insurance for the 3 children through your employment with Traverse City Christian?
Yes, I do.
And how much does it cost you per pay period to provide health insurance on the 3 minor children?
60 per pay period, which is 120 per month.
And how often are you paid, bi-weekly or weekly?
Twice a month.
Oh, twice a month,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, Ms. Klusterman, what hours do you work as a middle school math teacher at Traverse City Christian?
7:30 to 3:30.
And are those hours similar to the ones you were working at Old Mission?
Yes, a little bit longer.
What time do you leave your house in order to get to work at Traverse City Christian?
7:15.
And what time do you get home from work after leaving Traverse City Christian?
3:45-ish.
Ms. Klusterman, while you were employed at Old Mission, did you work the summer months?
Nope,
Are you required to work summer months in your new employment at Traverse City Christian?
no, I'm not.
And Ms. Klusterman, what does the defendant do for work?
He is self-employed, lawn care, snow removal, landscaping.
Does the defendant's business have a quote unquote busy season?
I would say so. Summer months,
And what,
May, June, July, August.
and what sort of hours does the defendant work during the summer months of May, June, July, and August?
As far as in our marriage, it's always been pretty much sun up to sundown, 8 o'clock in the morning till when it gets dark.
And when you say when it gets dark, what time in the evening would defendant typically return from work during the months of May, June, July, and August?
8, 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Were there ever times when the defendant would not return home until later than 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah, sometimes when things were really busy.
And Ms. Klusterman, in the months where defendant's business is like less busy, the off months, for lack of a better term, what sort of hours does he work?
Probably 9 in the morning till 6 dinner time, 6 or 7 at night.
And does he have any employees?
I mean, I helped him quite a bit. Our son helps him. He's got a couple of other guys that help him on the side, depending on what he has projects that are going on.
How frequently does your son assist the defendant with his business?
In the summer times, like the older he's gotten, the more he wants to work. He wants to earn money. He's looking to buy a car. He worked whenever he could based on football practices or, hanging out with his buddies.
And does the defendant pay Calvin, your son, for the work?
He says to Kelvin, Kelvin has done a great job of keeping track of his hours this summer. But when I asked Kelvin if dad is actually paying him, he says,
Objection, hearsay.
okay.
Ms. Kloosterman, do you know one way or the other if in fact Calvin has received compensation?
I do not. He
And
has not.
Ms. Kloosterman, does that concern you that you don't know about the compensation?
It does, because I'm trying to teach all of our kids, but Kelvin right now, because this is the age he's at, work ethic. And I have grown up with a very strong work ethic, and it's important for me to teach that to my children. And when I know that he's working for Kevin, there's not a specific, like, okay, I'm going to give you every Friday, I'm going to pay you for your previous week's work. There's times where, like, I know that Kevin would give Calvin just $100 and say, here's for working this week. I'm trying to instill this system for my son for future of, like, you work hard, you do your job, you get rewarded, and that's in a paycheck. And so I was told by Kevin that there's a savings account somewhere out there that money has been put in for Kelvin, but I have yet to see. Kelvin has no idea about the savings account. I have no idea what balance is on the savings account. I just want to make sure that our son, he's putting in the work. He's a hard worker. I want to make sure that he sees the benefits of working. That's my concern, is that I'm trying to teach him strong work ethic, and it seems not easy to do right now with that.
And from your observations, is your son able to balance participation with the defendant's business with his obligations related to school, extracurriculars, that sort of thing?
Yeah, for the most part. There have been times where he doesn't want to work, and he has asked me to talk to Kevin about letting him have a day off so he can go golfing with his buddies and that sort of thing. He never wants to disappoint his dad. So.
And Ms. Kloosterman, you previously testified that the defendant's busy season includes the months of May, June, July, and August. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Ms. Kloosterman, what sort of arrangements did the defendant make for the children during his busy season this year after the temporary order was in place?
On the weeks that he had the kids, his mom would stay with them, or they would be left at his parents' house, or he would call on a mutual friend, Gracie, to watch the kids or the girls for multiple days.
And Ms. Kloosterman, during the months of June, July, and August, are you able to provide care and supervision to the children during the day?
Absolutely.
Now, Ms. Kloosterman, over the course of our representation, you and I have discussed what's commonly referred to as the best interest factors. I'm going to ask you some questions under those factors now, okay?
Okay.
All right, so Ms. Kloosterman, factor A of the best interest factors involves the love, affection, and emotional ties that exist between the children and the parties. I'm going to focus on that first here. Ms. Kloosterman, how do you express love and affection toward your children?
We're a very affectionate family. Hugging, cuddling, words of encouragement. There's not a day that goes by that I don't text my kids, whether they're with me or whether they're not, asking how their day's going, checking in on, whatever have you, asking them about their athletic events or homework, or Kelsey, who she played with at recess today. I think just showing that I am an ever-present person in their lives on a daily basis is the way that we have our connection.
And Ms. Klusterman, do your children reciprocate love and affection towards you?
Yes, absolutely.
How do they reciprocate love and affection towards you?
Saying I love you, mom, text messages back, asking me how my day is, saying thank you for this and that, reciprocating hugs, wanting to cuddle. Can we have some, mommy and me time? Can we, sit and watch a movie tonight? Can we play a game? Like just interacting in both of our lives and wanting me to be a part of their lives.
Ms. Klusterman, do your children ever come to you for help with a problem?
Absolutely, all the time.
Can you give a specific example?
Sure. Just last week, Calvin was, or probably 2 weeks ago now, Calvin was struggling with homecoming and which girl he wanted to go with to homecoming. And, he asks me, Mom, what do I think? How do I navigate this situation? We sat down, we talked about it. I felt very privileged that he came to me with a girlfriend issue. He's 15, right? But we have a close connection that way. Callie asks me all the time for help with homework or navigating friend situations at school. Kelsey, a couple weeks ago, texted me, called me on Kevin's parenting week and said she had a field trip the next day.
Hearsay.
Okay.
I know it's hard not to.
It is.
Agreed. Sustained, agreed, whatever.
Understood. Ms. Klusterman, would you say that the children come to you with their problems more than, less than, or in an equal amount as to when they come to defendant with their problems?
More than.
And Ms. Klusterman, do your children ever share exciting news with you, such as a good grade on a test or a sporting victory?
Absolutely.
Can you give an example?
Yep. Callie, when she made chamber choir, she texted me right away when she found out that she made the list. Calvin texted me, actually, I was there, came up to me at the football game Friday night, right after when he had told me that he asked Kason to be his girlfriend. He was super excited to share that information with me.
Objection, strike, hearsay. I mean, we can't be talking about what the kids have said.
Oh, okay.
I understand.
Correct. And to assure everyone, I will be the in-camera interview scheduled, so that's when I'll be hearing from the minors.
So
I understand. I think I agree it was hearsay, Your Honor, and I think it's difficult, obviously, for lay people to understand that. We'll work on it. Ms. Klusterman, would you say that your children share exciting news with you more than, less than, or equal amount as the defendant?
more than.
And Ms. Klusterman, do the children ever come to you when they're sick or injured?
Yes.
Can you give an example?
They call me when they're sick at school and ask them if they need to be picked up.
Would you say that the children come to you when they are sick or injured more than, less than, or in an equal amount as when they come to the defendant?
More than.
And Ms. Klusterman, do your children ever give you gifts?
Yes.
Can you give an example of a gift your children have given to you?
Yes. For Mother's Day, they were super excited. They gave me a Lululemon bag. They know that that's my love language. I probably instilled that in my children, but it is one of the things that we show, whether it's a handmade gift or a purchase gift or something, we show our love very much that way. And the kids are very prideful when they can, give me a gift for birthday or Christmas or what have you.
And how did you respond to that gift?
Very appreciative, loving, and very thankful.
Ms. Klusterman, on December 22nd, 2021, did one of your children give the defendant a gift?
Yes.
What was the gift?
It was a mug.
And how did the defendant respond to that gift?
To me, he said, why do I need another mug? We have tons of mugs. I would rather have the money.
How did the defendant respond in front of the children?
Not very grateful.
Was the child upset after this incident?
Yes.
Did you comfort the child?
Yes, I did.
Ms. Klusterman, have you ever heard the defendant call the children inappropriate names?
Yes.
What sort of names have you heard the defendant call the children?
Little shit, punk, jerk, weird, asshole.
Have you ever asked the defendant not to call the children those sorts of names?
Multiple times on multiple occasions.
And what was the defendant's response in such regard?
Most of the time they can handle it. It's no big deal.
Did the defendant's use of those names continue after you confronted him about it?
Yes.
And Ms. Kloosterman, do you ever call the children names such as little shit or punk or weird?
No.
Ms. Kloosterman, on October 26, 2018, did the defendant call one of your children weird?
Yes.
Was the child upset by this?
Yes, she was.
And did you talk to the defendant about this situation?
I did.
How did the defendant respond?
He said it was no big deal.
And Ms. Kloosterman, does defendant's behavior in this regard cause you any concerns?
It does. I feel like he does not take the kids' response to these seriously. He's not in tune with how these words that he says to the kids and in front of the kids, how it truly affects their well-being or their emotional state.
Now, Ms. Kloosterman, I'm going to move to factor B of the best interest factors, which involves the capacity and disposition of the parties to give the children love, affection, and guidance, and continue the education and raising of the child in her religion. So we're going to discuss that now, okay?
Yep.
All right, Ms. Kloosterman, what grade is Calvin currently in?
Calvin is in 10th grade,
And what school does he currently attend?
Traverse City Central.
What grade is Kelsey in?
5th grade,
And what school does Kelsey attend?
Eastern Elementary.
What grade is Callie in?
8th grade,
And what school does she attend?
East Middle School.
What sort of grades does Calvin earn in school?
A's and B's.
And what sort of grades does Kelsey earn in school?
It's a little different in elementary school, satisfactory. Most of the time, she struggles a little bit with reading and reading comprehension.
What sort of grades does Callie earn in school?
A's and B's.
Do any of your children have like a individualized education plan or other form of special assistance?
Kelsey does with her reading and reading comprehension. She has it's like a title tutor.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what you
Yeah,
just said?
she has a tutor at school that her pullout for
And-
intervention.
And Ms. Kloosterman, who was involved in getting Callie that tutor?
Kelsey.
Kelsey, excuse me. You guys have a lot of K names.
Yep, I was.
Was the defendant involved?
No.
Ms. Kloosterman, do you help the children with their homework?
Absolutely.
How do you help the children with your homework?
We sit and do it after school. We have a routine that needs to get done. Whether it's helping them study for a test, looking over their homework once it's done, helping them make flashcards, any sort of typical studying techniques, obviously different based on which child it is.
Ms. Kloosterman, do you believe your employment as an educator gives you skills that assist in this regard?
Absolutely.
Can you explain your answer?
Sure. I feel like being a teacher myself, I know how kids learn best. I know especially how each of my children learn best. I know that Kelsey is a very hands-on learner. I know that Calvin does best when he sees it and hears it at the same time. And I know that and Callie is a fantastic reader. She is very analytical in her thinking. Knowing these things, I can help them study, learn. Being a teacher, I know how important it is for their education, and I truly believe they value my belief in that. And I think that being a teacher is very important because education is so important
And
for their well-being.
Ms. Kloosterman, do the children contact you for help with their homework during defendant's parenting time?
Yes, they do.
What time of the day or night do they contact you for help while they're with the defendant?
It can be anytime after school. There's been a couple instances after a hockey practice. Callie contacted me, texted me, said, "Mom, I really need to."
And remember,
Action, hearsay.
Sorry. Yep. She texted me asking for help to FaceTime, and she didn't want to be loud. Is that hearsay? Okay.
I know it's hard. It's hard. So I think you answered the question.
Okay.
We're good. Ms. Kloosterman, would you say the children come to you for help with homework more than, less than, or in an equal amount as when they come to the defendant for help with homework?
More than.
Ms. Kloosterman, have the children or any of your children ever gotten in trouble at school?
Yes,
What child has gotten in trouble at school?
Kelvin has.
And can you explain why he got in trouble at school?
Yes, he was flipping his lanyard and he flicked a girl in the butt. And so I got a phone call.
And when did this situation occur?
It was the spring of 2021, I believe. He was in 8th grade. So spring of 2020.
And was there a meeting with the principal or an
Yes.
educator at the school?
Emails went back and forth between the principal and myself. And I was called in for a parent meeting I requested a parent meeting to ask about the incident. Knowing as I was an educator, I didn't want anything to be on a permanent record. I wanted to make sure things were clear. I wanted to see the video, that sort of thing.
And did the defendant attend the meeting with you?
He did not.
Why did the defendant not attend the meeting?
I have no idea. I asked him if he wanted to, and he said he had no interest in attending.
Did the defendant call the meeting with the principal a waste of time?
Yes, he did.
Did he call the meeting with the principal stupid?
Yes, he did.
Ms. Kloosterman, do your children require back to school shopping prior to the start of an academic year?
Yes, they do.
Do you take the children back to school shopping or does the defendant take the children?
I take them back to school shopping.
And Ms. Kloosterman, do you attend the children's parent-teacher conferences?
I do.
Have you ever missed a parent-teacher conference?
There was one time I did. I was actually giving my own parent-teacher conferences for my own students in my classroom. And I had set up Kelvin's parent-teacher conference with his teacher for Kevin to attend. And Kevin said he is not coming and not going. So I had to figure it out on my own. So I ended up then, after my students' parent-teacher conferences, asking the other teacher to stay late so that we could have our conference regarding Kelvin, because Kevin would not come.
So does the defendant typically attend the children's parent-teacher
He
conference?
has never been to a parent-teacher conference.
Ms. Kloosterman, in your experience as an educator, is it important for parents to attend these conferences?
Absolutely. I think it's important for the parents and the teachers to have a great working relationship and to ensure the success of the children.
And Ms. Kloosterman, if one of your children has to miss school for like a dentist appointment or they're sick, who notifies the school of your child's absence? You or the defendant?
It has been me. However, last week, I know when Kelvin was out, Kevin is the one who did call school to excuse him.
And Ms. Kloosterman, have you ever volunteered at a class party or field trip in connection with the children's school?
Multiple times.
And can you give an example?
Yep, I was the room mom for Kelsey's class the last 2 years. I attend field trips. I attend PTO events. Very hands-on in all of their classrooms.
Has the defendant ever volunteered in connection with the children's school, like a field trip, class party?
Nope.
On June 7th, 2023, did Kelvin fail 2 exams?
Yes, he did.
Was Kelvin in your care during that week or in the care of defendant?
He was in Kevin's care that week.
And Ms. Kloosterman, do you have any parental restrictions on your children's cell phones?
Yes, I have.
What restrictions do you have?
Screen time, content restrictions for like inappropriate content, explicit stuff, age appropriate for them.
Can you explain why you have
Yes.
those restrictions?
It's to keep our children safe, to ensure that they are not doing anything they shouldn't be doing, or involuntarily accessing things that they shouldn't see, trying to protect our children.
And have those restrictions remained on your children's cell phones while in the care of the defendant?
They stay on the girls' cell phones, yes. Kevin requested, since he was paying Kelvin's phone bill, that the restrictions be taken off of Kelvin's phone.
And did you have a conversation with the defendant about the removal of the restrictions on Kelvin's phone?
Absolutely. I was upset. He told me Kelvin is 15. He does not need restrictions on his phone. I, in turn, used that same argument. He does need restrictions on his phone because he's 15.
And did you ask the defendant to replace the restrictions?
I did.
Were the restrictions replaced?
No.
Ms. Kloosterman, what do you teach your daughters in regard to body image or body positivity, for lack of a better term?
I think it's really important to have positive body image, especially in today's world. It's hard with all of these incoming factors throwing at them through social media and sort of things like that. So I try to limit as best as I can and really encourage positive self-talk, positive body image. I think as women, that is something that can very easily be discriminated, and we are looked at as objects rather than people.
And Ms. Klusterman, what do you teach your son in regard to relationships with women?
Respect being number one, that there's this sense of mutual respect that needs to happen, that you treat them great. You don't talk down to them. Respect is so big for me. And I think that is so important with all of our children, to teach them respect.
And does the defendant reinforce and solidify your teachings to your son in regards to respecting women?
No, he does not.
And can you explain your answer?
Yes, I think it's evident in the way that Kevin talks to me in front of the children, that he does not respect me. I think the way that Kevin has talked to our son about women is inappropriate. Suns out, buns out every time they go past the volleyball courts. He talks to him or participates in locker room type conversations about, who are the hockey moms on the team, talking about how there's going to be girls are going to want to come after Kelvin because he's so good at sports. I think as a mom, I want our son to respect women. And many times I feel like in Kevin's presence, he is taught to objectify women.
Ms. Klusterman, have you and the defendant raised your children in any specific religion?
Yes.
What religion have you brought the children up in?
Christian religion.
And why did you and the defendant decide to raise the children Christian?
Kevin and I were both brought up in a Christian home and attended church regularly, and we saw the benefits in our lives as growing up. I knew that I wanted to instill those beliefs and that system in our children. And, when Kevin and I got married, he felt the same way. And we've been doing that as part of their lives ever since.
What benefits do you think the children receive from Christianity?
Mm-hmm. I think they learn how to treat others. They learn that there's a power out there bigger than themselves, that, it's not about them. It gives them a sense of, there's this higher being in control, and that something to cling to in the good times and the bad times.
As a part of your marriage, did you as a family attend church on Sundays?
Yes, whenever possible.
And since the temporary order, have you continued to take the children to church on Sundays?
Yes, whenever I can.
Ms. Klusterman, has the defendant continued to take the children to church on Sundays during his parenting time?
He has not.
Mecca Foundation, or she would only know this due to hearsay. So.
Nope, I go to the same church.
Yeah, so overruled.
Ms. Klusterman, how do you know that the defendant doesn't take the children to church on the Sundays he has the kids?
Because he is not there and I am.
Ms. Klusterman, can I have you watch what I have labeled as Plaintiff's Exhibit 15? Your Honor, I believe I delivered a flash drive to the court with it. Hopefully that made its way to you.
Are you asking me to pull it up on there?
No, I can share my screen. I just wanted to make sure that you had a copy of it. Would
They emailed me about the flash drive, correct?
Okay, correct.
It's not
And
something, just so we're clear, I mean, I know, I think you know this process, but I don't review any of the exhibits before trial, so I have not viewed it, if that's what you're asking me.
yeah, I just want to make sure you had it. And Your Honor, may I share my screen?
Yeah, one thing I want to go over before we get into the videos, though, is what's the context for the videos?
The context of the video would be a discussion between the parties about the children's attendance at church.
Okay, it's not the children, in other words, right?
No,
Okay,
there's no children in this video.
thank you. We can
All
play
right.
it. I mean, do you want it to, are you asking to have it admitted?
Well, I guess I need to play it for her first in order to ask her if she recognizes it. Ms. Gooseman, I'm going to ask you to watch a video that I've labeled as Plaintiff's Exhibit 15, okay?
Okay.
Can we all see this? I never know.
Yes,
Okay.
I can.
Thank you.
Big church is a waste of funds, stupid.
Okay. Good to know that you want to raise our kids in a non-Christian home.
It doesn't matter. What about them doing anything? And I didn't say that, so.
You just did. You don't want, you said church is a waste of time.
Ms. Klosterman, can you explain kind of what Exhibit 15 is?
Yep, Kevin and I are having a conversation. This was after our separation, and I was continuing to bring the kids to church. The kids like going to church, and they had, sorry, I know that's hearsay. I encouraged him to also take the kids to church.
And who's the male voice in the video?
Kevin,
Who's the female voice?
me,
Did you film Plaintiff Exhibit 15?
I did,
And when did you film it?
May 26th of 2023.
And is Plaintiff's Exhibit an accurate reflection of your conversation with the defendant at that time?
Yes,
Your Honor, I would offer Plaintiff's Exhibit 15 into evidence.
Any objection?
I mean, my objection would be that it's not the complete conversation. It's taken completely out of context. It's
May I
a
respond, Your Honor?
couple minutes. It's not even a couple minutes. It's a couple second soundbite. It's not demonstrative of the entire conversation. I believe that we would need the entire conversation.
Okay. May I respond, Your Honor?
Sure.
To that point, I would say that that goes more towards weight of the evidence rather than its admissibility. I believe my client has laid a foundation that she was the one that filmed this, that it was an accurate reflection of that portion of the conversation on May 26, 2023. And again, I'd say that objection goes to weight, not admissibility of the evidence.
Uh,
Your Honor, if I may, Rule 106 relates to rule of completeness, and it specifically addresses a recorded statement or part thereof. An adverse party, which would be me in this situation, may require the introduction at the time of any other part, any other writing or recorded statement, which ought to be considered fairness, which ought in fairness to be considered contemporaneously therewith. I mean, obviously, we don't have the complete conversation because she recorded a few seconds of what is clearly a longer conversation. So we don't have a complete conversation here.
And again, Your Honor, I would say that it doesn't reflect that these are the statements that were made at this time. I think the court can interpret the statements on the record as they were stated. I don't think that reflects or is relevant to the rest of the conversation.
I mean, I'll let Ms. Feltzer voir dire your client about, I mean, it's pretty common for people to only introduce the things that benefit them. I understand that that's not the fairness, but I don't know that Ms. Feltzer has any other context to suggest that this conversation was longer than that. You're guessing that it is. I don't know. How would I know if this conversation was longer than that? How can you show me that this conversation was longer than these few seconds? People have conversations that are that long all the time. Like in other words, I think this rule of evidence 106 is suggesting that you know that there's more evidence to present, and that in this context, Ms. Lentz is not presenting it unfairly, and I'm not so sure that that's true.
I mean, Your Honor, it's the context, it's the length of time of the video, it's that the actual words being spoken are coming out of the blue. I think the court, I mean, can clearly infer that there was something else being said before and something after. I mean, I even heard in that conversation, I just had a few seconds to listen to it, but towards the end, Mr. Klusterman said, that's not what I'm saying. And then he was cut off.
And we can go to that part. I don't think that was at the end of the conversation, but Erin, I think the gist of this is, like you said, people play videos all the time that benefit them. And I think it's your honor's decision to decide what sort of weight to give to that evidence.
Oh, well, I guess I'll just do it if Ms. Schmeltzer's not going to. Ms. Klosterman, what's the context for this conversation? Was this a longer conversation, or where are we at on this? I'll voir dire you.
Yeah, of course. From what I recall, it was a longer conversation, but not about the church part. That was something that came up as we were discussing other issues and things that were going on at this time in our lives.
Because this soundbite, I mean, the whole other part is she can just testify as to what happened. So I don't really know, I know in modern times, everything we want to be recorded, but we can still trust people under oath. So anyway, is this, how long was this conversation, would you say, when we're talking about the church issue?
Multiple, I don't know, few seconds. And this isn't the first time where he's told me that church is a waste of time since our separation.
Well, I'm trying to look at, was this a longer conversation you were having?
No.
That was recorded.
Not about church, no.
Ms. Schmeltzer, do you have any questions for her then on this?
I do not, Your Honor.
I think that I think that the objection is fair in terms of whether we can figure out if there's a longer context. I would agree that generally speaking, Ms. Schmeltzer is correct that we do want a full record and not just to pull things out, but I think we figured out right now that this is the context. So I can't require them to produce anything more than what actually occurred. So over objection, exhibit 15 submitted. And again, I can weigh it, however, this, I think it's admissible. Whether it has any weight is something I'll decide in light of everything. It's admitted.
Ms. Klusterman, do the defendant's comments regarding church concern you?
Absolutely.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. Well, when we got married and had children, we had agreed that we would raise our children in a Christian home with Christian values and Christian morals. And we have done that up until this point. And it is concerning to me that all of a sudden he's taking a 180 twist on this. And I don't know if I don't want to do hearsay, but my kids have noticed.
Ms. Klusterman, have your children historically participated in Vacation Bible School?
Yes, we all have.
Who facilitated the children's involvement in Vacation Bible School?
I have.
And did you facilitate the children's involvement in Vacation Bible School this year?
I do. I have.
And Ms. Klusterman, what methods of discipline do you use for the children when they misbehave?
I am a firm believer in the love and logic and, talking things out and giving the kids boundaries and expectations. And if they, they screw up like all of us do and like kids do, I, firmly believe that there's consequences, good and bad, for what they do. And I think it's important for them to see that, that can be done in a loving, consistent, productive way.
Ms. Klusterman, I'm not familiar. What is love and logic? Is that like a parenting?
It's like a parenting thing. Yeah, there's parenting classes out there. There's books on it. I have found it, not that I follow it, to the T, but it's just something that I learned early on in my parenting and have found it helpful. A lot of things also carry over to like being a teacher in the classroom and setting expectations and boundaries and, just being the consistency so the kids understand what the expectations are is important. in their
And-
growth.
What methods of discipline does the defendant use for the children?
He is usually pretty quiet and all of a sudden yells, screams, swears, like at the kids.
Ms. Klusterman, I'm gonna ask you to watch Plaintiff's Exhibit 2.
Okay.
Oops, sorry. Your Honor, there is, children aren't seen in this video. There's noise. I don't know if that impacts the ability for you to have it on YouTube.
That's not entirely my concern. The concern is whether they're making statements, like hearsay statements. I don't want any statements from the kids. Unless you're gonna meet some sort of exception, because I'll be meeting with them and it's unnecessary. So
Understood, Your Honor.
that's. If you have records you don't want, I mean, you know, an example would be if we're pulling up school records and there's a social security number or something, you know, I don't want that on YouTube for these people's sake.
Understand, Your Honor.
So
All right, Ms. Klusterman, I'm gonna have you watch Plaintiff's Exhibit 2.
Prior to, I'm gonna object preliminarily prior to that. I mean, my concern is if the children are making statements, I reviewed this briefly yesterday. Is there an opportunity to take a quick pause so that I can review it prior to it being displayed to the court and make sure that there aren't those concerns about children making statements?
I would prefer that. That's why I typically don't have them played and then we do it this way. So I guess, yeah, let's go off the record. And how many videos in total do we have?
Can I reference my notes and for a second as
Yeah,
to?
I'm not gonna hold you to it, I
And,
guess.
and additionally, my objection is also to foundation preliminarily because we don't have a time, context, date, whenever this occurred.
That's the way I
think that would be
usually provide a foundation first and then we'll watch the video. So
Yeah.
I don't, and I don't care. I don't know how to like ask her those questions without showing her what it is.
Well,
Like,
you
do you
can
see-
ask her, did you take a video on this date and time and what
Okay,
was it? And then,
Okay,
I mean,
Which other